In legendary creatures, you are attempting to use creatures that rumour has it are legendary in an effort to advance down a number of tracks. Tracks all have a certain cost, which we'll come back to later, and when you're at the top of a track, apart from the very end, you get a gift. Not a present like the gift of Earth here, so you don't unwrap it. The game round will consist of you choosing 3 of your 4 cards to go under your playmat and 1 to go to the side for the exhibition round. These 3 cards will then be revealed, with the most important one, the order of them being most important. The first one dictates initiative, and the powers will trigger in order from left to right. You can use each card for its magic power in the top left, or for one of the powers underneath. So here I use 4 magic to top up my magic, and here I'm going to use the power to get me 2 earth magic, or orbs. Here I'm going to gain 2 water ones. Then I can move in the realms. So the realms cost me the associated magic and orb, and I can move up, securing some endgame victory points, but also potentially securing a gift unless I reach a podium stage. The gifts are powerful and well worth having. The most useful one, perhaps, is the gift of air, where you can move up any realm track, but they all have their uses. At the end of 3 of these rounds, you will go on an exhibition by adding up your magic power, and the top player gets to choose first. They will choose between reward points and also the power on the exhibition tile. You may also build your deck to some degree by discarding one of your creatures from your display for one of the vast expanse creatures. Lastly, there are 3 magic powers for each player and an amulet. Amplify lets you double anything gained from one of your creatures. Shadow Step lets you follow a move in a realm that you're not in. And Mind Link lets you leech off somebody else when they gain resources. There are 4 different amulets, and they work differently for each player. Legendary Creatures is a big box game from Pencil First Games, and it's very... what's the word? It's an unusual game to see from them, given their past releases. The game is essentially about racing down these tracks and how you use creatures to do that. There is a tiny bit of deck building in there, but these tracks are the main ways that you're going to score points. There's some other options within the game, but they are the main ways to get points, and they are super interesting, because if you smash down a track really quickly and get to the end, you're no longer eligible to win the gifts for that track, which gives you a really powerful action. I agree with some elements of other reviews that, for me, we always played the 2-day game. So 2 rounds of 3 phases each. So there was six turns total. In a 3-day game, there's going to be 9, and that does feel a bit long. 2-day game was always enough for us. We had people reach the end of multiple tracks in 2 days, so the 3rd day does feel a bit superfluous. I know some words, people. But, that's no bad thing. The option is there, and it gives you very clear setup instructions to play a two-player game. I just think that should have been the default. You start with the creature decks, which are all the same, and deck building is very easy. You can choose to swap one in. It's very generous, because you swap that into one of the creatures you selected and you can use it straight away. I like the choices on the creatures. That's often a hard choice, whether you use it for its action or for its magic, because you need the magic and the resources to go up on those tracks. They ain't cheap. And from reading the rules and starting the game, I was like, how am I ever going to get up high on these tracks? But it happens. You may spend one whole round just smashing your resources up as far as they would go, so the next few rounds you can just move up the tracks. In general, you can only move up 1 track, but that is broken by the powers of the game often enough for it not to be an issue. I do think I think one of my problems was that your choices are limited to the 4 cards you pick. You're going to use those 4 cards each round they're in your hand, and the only way to change them is to grab a wild creature from the wild, which you might not want to do. You might want to keep all 4 of those cards in your deck. I would like to have seen you drawing a bigger hand and choosing from them. Or, to be fair, you could do away with the exhibition phase where you put the one to the side and you have that exhibition at the end. There's a lot in this game. It's not difficult, but I think having the 4 cards and only choosing 3 and discarding 1 would just have given that extra choice, other than just what order and what one goes into the expedition, because obviously often that is quite obvious a choice. There's quite an easy way of choosing what goes where, and that would be my biggest criticism actually. That card play could have been so much more satisfying either with unique decks, because like I say, it's not, I mean, most of us changed 1 card during a playthrough, maybe 2. Rarely did we change any more than that, and there's only going to be 6 options anyway in the game. So that was kind of a downside for me. Other than that, the presentation is phenomenal. It makes you think of something like Pokemon, even if it's not really got a Pokemon feel. You kind of look at these creatures, you're using these creatures, but you're not using them for battle, you're using them to harvest resources, which will then fuel your races down the tracks. I like the spells, the way that they kind of give you some more options, and I think that's, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, should they be asymmetrical, the spells? But actually I think that's really key that you have the 3 spells that are the same, because it's a game in itself seeing where people place those. So yeah, there's a lot to like about the game. The instructed length and perhaps a bit too much, and with the exhibitions, and not enough choice in cards, which is the international sign language for cards. They are my downsides really. So, intimidation factor, unfortunately on this one, is quite high because there are so many contents, and although they flow smoothly, and from our first play all we were checking is we did have the rules open because there is a player aid, but it just says the titles of each phase, and each phase is often multiple points of things that you have to go through, but we were only looking at the headings to remind us. But yeah, there is an intimidation factor. The rulebook is thorough and full, but again, like the rest of the game, just a little bit flabby. Will I be keeping it in my collection? It is not one that would quite meet the level of me keeping it in my collection. Would I play it again? Yeah, I would play it again. I think I would only play it again if we agreed from the start that we were only doing two days. I wouldn't play 3 days, but I would happily play it again. Would I recommend it to friends? That's always a difficult one. I would certainly talk about it as a good game. It's a solid game. It's a fun game. But there would be a number of caveats that I would say to my friends before they played it. So there's my thoughts on legendary creatures. Thanks very much for watching Board Deck and Dice. We will see you next time.